Hi guys, I am Tish. Welcome to my page, Kingdom Beauty. I hope you have your tea. We gonna sit back, we gonna relax. I got my fragrance going. I took a sip of my tea. I ate all the tacos. But I'm ready to have this venting session with my fellow teachers or former teachers like myself now. So let's get into the video. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be discussing four signs that it's time to leave your teaching job, possibly. I have four. I might ramble, quickly mention some other things, but there are four main things that I want to discuss. These are things that I personally experience, and they might be signs for you. So I'm grateful for you clicking on this video because I hope you get some confirmation that you may have been looking for. Definitely stick around for the fourth reason though. So stick around to the end of the video because the last sign is like the biggest sign, and it's actually one that I don't see a lot of people mentioning as a reason for when they leave their teaching job. So the first reason that I have that it might be time to leave your teaching job is due to the age group you work with. If you are working with a specific age that you do not want to work with and you're forced to work with, you have no other choice, no other option, that might be a sign to go because you don't want to be miserable. Teaching could be miserable enough as it is. And so if you are in a job where you don't have room to move around between different grades or different ages, I would try to find a job where you get to work with the exact age group you want to work with. I say that because my personal experience, I come from my most recent job. I've come out of working with toddlers, specifically age 2, and I did not enjoy that. And that's actually not the age group that I wanted to work with. I remember when I was hired with this job, I said I like working with older children within like that preschool range, like between 4 and 5 years old and up. I wasn't trying to work with any 2-year-olds, but I didn't have the position, luxury, or option to move around because there weren't teachers needed, right? And my specific school, the oldest age was 3. So I didn't really have the option to move around. And I didn't like it because it's like, I feel like I'm too advanced to teach 2-year-olds. I think a lot of my ideas and creativity is just not age appropriate for that group. And I'm just too advanced. Even when I'm not trying to be, I'll just naturally notice that I'm doing things that might be too much for them. And I said, okay, I need a challenge. Like, I need to be with older children. So, there was that. And then it's just the whole it kind of feeling like babysitting because they're 2. So you have to deal with temper tantrums. You have to deal with constant crying. You have to deal with, just watching them play a whole lot for the most part. And I'm going to get into that in the next point. It wasn't for me, and I didn't see myself sitting around dealing with that long term. So if you are dealing with an age group, whether too young or too much older than what you prefer, I would consider looking for another position. So number 2, as I mentioned, if you are a teacher who feels like a little more advanced in how they teach, or if you are more focused on academics and you like to actually do lessons and etc., but where you work has this hyper excessive focus on outside playtime, I would say start looking for another job. My situation, as I just explained, I'm advanced. I love learning, academics. I'm more academic driven than I am for play-based learning. I just can't get with that. I get too bored with that. So I was becoming so bothered. I was becoming so bothered at my job because it was just this, I'm telling you, a hyper focus on going outside. So, or just playtime period, but really we're going outside. I don't know about, across the nation, but I know New York City for sure. There's a requirement for the children at this age to be outdoors for 1 hour every single day. Now, at this particular school, we were also required to take afternoon walks. So the children are already outside for like 2 hours, maybe between the morning park play and the afternoon walks, right? And then when they're in a classroom, it's just extra playing then, and a lot of that has to do with their age because at this age, developmentally, they learn through, social interactions and playing, but also is based on the co-teacher you have in a room too. If you're not on the same page with the co-teacher, one wants to teach and the other one just wants to let the kids play all day. That was my situation. It is not good. So I'm going to give y'all the rundown of my schedule. And I want y'all to tell me where y'all see time for me to do an activity. So my schedule was 7:45 in the morning to 4 p.m. 7:45 to 8. That's 15 minutes of me just opening up the classroom. From 8 to 9, that's drop off hour. 8 to 9, drop off hour. The children are free playing. They're having center play. That is not the time to do an activity because you got to cater to the children that's being dropped off, especially if they having a tantrum in the morning, don't want to leave the parents. You have to keep your eye on all the children until your co-teachers come in. So that's drop off hour from 9 to 9:30. The children the children are transitioning from free play to breakfast, and then they're having their first diaper change. At 9:30 to 10 o'clock, the children are having circle time, if that gets done. They they're having circle time and they're transitioning to go outside, getting jackets on, all the things. 10 to 11, the children are outside. 10 to 11, the children are outside at the park. We get back from the park around 11:15 and we have 15 minutes transitioning, taking off jackets or etc., washing hands and that. 11:30 to 12, me personally, I was doing the second diaper change. Sometimes it would take the full half hour to do because I'm doing the diaper changes one by one and it's like 12 kids in a class. And if a child poops, you got to spend extra time wiping them enough for them to be fully clean. You're putting the ointment on. Some of the children are wearing pull-ups. So in order for you to change them and put on a new pull-up, you have to take off all of their clothes. Now, 12 o'clock is my lunch break. So I go on my 30-minute lunch break. When I come back, the children are transitioning from lunch to going down to rest. So by the time they're all down, it's around 1, and then the kids sleep till like 3. Remember, I go home at 4. So it's 2 hours of the children laying down. Now, you would think at this time I would be able to get some work done, like some planning and prepping and etc. No, I'm spending half the time trying to put a bunch of kids to sleep. You have one teacher cleaning, and then you have one teacher trying to put 11, 12 children to sleep at one time. Some are just going to be up a little longer because I only have 2 hands, right? So I'm spending half of the rest time putting them to sleep. That's taking away time from me doing actual work. And then some children just take really long to sleep. Really, like sometimes I just left them up as long as they wasn't interrupting anyone. Y'all could stay right there because I'm not. 3 o'clock, they wake up and they have snack, and that's till about 3:30 when everyone finished. And so with them getting up, that's their third diaper change. That's them we helping them putting sheets and stuff away, and we setting out the snack, and then we're giving them the snack. All of that is about a half hour. It's 3:30 and we are required to go outside again for another outdoors time. This is when they go on a walk. When we come back from the walk, it's time to go home. When did I have time? Pause this video, rewind it for the last few minutes I was talking, and y'all tell me. Y'all tell me when I had time to do an actual activity. I will wait. Where's their time to actually teach these children? Where's their time to fulfill the lesson plans that we are required to even turn in the first place? I'm sorry, but I'm just not a teacher that be bringing work home. I have my boundary. When I'm home, I'm home. It's my peace of mind. I'm not doing that. I'll get paid for it. I understand going above and beyond, but if you are not really passionate about what you do, you're not going to go above and beyond. And that's another sign to look out for if you might need another job. And I'm going to get into that in the next point, actually. So, no time of the day to do any of that. Also, with that, again, what plays a part in that is if you and your co-teacher are not on the same page, specifically with the co-teacher I had, who was actually the lead, she liked being outside. I mean, on a personal level. I mean, on my very last day of work, she even had the nerve to say, it's Friday. Like, I would bring the kids out for 3 hours if I could. I'm trying to have them out for a long time. And I looked at her like she crazy. 3 hours? She like, yeah, 3 hours. I am so serious. Just let them run around. And I'm just like, 3 hours. You know how much work we could get done in 3 hours, and you want them outside playing for that long? That is very excessive. And so with my particular teacher, I noticed like sometimes we would go to the park and we go in a little early and then we leave in a little later. We were always like the last class to leave the park. I would see other teachers leaving the park earlier. I see other teachers leaving early to make time to get back to the class to get at least one activity done. That is the type of teacher I wanted to be with. With talking to my co-teacher, she would say things like she want the kids outside because they're too rowdy in the class. But that's the problem. When we're not doing any lessons and activities and having any structure in a class, then yes, they are going to be rowdy. That's because we're not doing anything with them, right? That's number one. Number two, she said that she just be wanting the kids to fall asleep at rest time, so she want to tire them out. To me, it sounds like a teacher that just don't want to work. When you are ambitious about getting the kids to learn academically or to learn at whatever you do with them to learn and see them grow, but another teacher just kind of want to sit around and chill, that is never going to work. So if you are at odds with your co-teacher and it seems like nothing could be done about it, you might want to go ahead and find somewhere where you can be and experience better like teamwork. So let's go into the third sign. The third sign it might be time to leave your teaching job is if you are full of dreadfulness. Like you dread going to work. Dreadfulness leads to stress. It leads to anxiety. Sometimes it leads to lack of motivation, all the things. That's what I was experiencing. It got to the point where I was having insomnia and it was hard to go to sleep. And I didn't even care about getting prepared for a job that I dreaded going to. When it was time to get up, it was the hardest battle mentally to get up and bring myself to work. I just was no longer motivated. I noticed my attitude was changing. These are all signs you can look for in yourself. When your attitude changes, you're no longer happy. You stop working as hard. You stop putting your best foot forward. Again, it's a mental battle to get to work. It's a mental battle to be at work when you're there. These are all things to look for. Now, we want to be careful because when we start getting stressed because we somewhere we don't want to be, it could cause physical health issues. And so we want to take care of ourselves, so we got to pay attention to that. When it comes to lack of motivation, it can be so easy to end up getting fired because we are not putting our best foot forward anymore. We are not caring, and we just stop doing things that we're supposed to do. And that's what happened to me. I was missing deadlines. I was just there doing the bare minimum. And I fully accepted just playing like a babysitting part. I'm like, that's all we do. And there's no change in it. There's no change in it. Me and the lead teacher now on the same page. Okay, I'ma just be a body in a classroom. I could have put myself in a position to be disciplined or written up or whatever. I wasn't doing that horribly, but I also know I wasn't doing everything I was supposed to be doing. So look out for your performance when you start changing. Also with me, I was like a bubbly person. I come in, hi everyone, I'm playful, I'm joyful, not I'm joyful, but I'm playful and bubbly with everyone, in high spirits and things like that. And then after a while I just became real dry walking around the building, and you saw the change in me, and a lot of other teachers noticed that in me as well. So when it becomes visible, that might be a sign to go. And then when you see your actions changing on the job, your work ethic and things like that, it might be a sign that it's time to go. Ask yourself the question, are you being stifled? Do you feel like your creativity and your growth opportunities are being held back because you're not actually getting the space to be able to do things? You know, you're bored because you're not being allowed to actually teach because all these children do is go outside. You are stressed and frustrated because your co-teacher is not on the same page as you. So when you feel like you hit a ceiling and you can't go any higher than where you are, let alone a pay, right? You can't go any higher than where you are. It might be time to go. That might be a sign that the Lord is pushing you to an environment where you can do more. And so, yes, the last sign, the most important one, if you made it to the end of this video, is prayer. Is prayer. I want to tell you something because it's significant. I decided to grow in my prayer life. I started to pray more. And I was praying more. I was asking God to show me, what he wants to do with me in my life. Like, how does he wants to use me? Now, this is how I know it was God, because I wasn't actually trying to leave my job. Like, I was actually content with my job before it went sour. I was content. I kept having dreams that I was like going on job interviews, trying to leave the job. And I was like confused. I said, why do I keep dreaming that I'm trying to get another job? I don't have any issues with this job. That's what I was saying at the time. Then it started to make sense later down. And I was asking God, what are the plans he have for me? And next thing you know, things start getting shaky on the job. Things start getting shaky on the job, and it seemed to come out of nowhere. And I was like, oh, everything was changing. The kids started becoming more annoying. I felt like I started to lose grace for dealing with the children. And communication between admin, staff, and parents was becoming crazy. High turnover. I mean, as per usual, but also we was already struggling in the class a bit, even with 3 teachers. And the third teacher, the reason why we were struggling was because we had 3 teachers, but they were always pulling the third teacher out of our classroom like as a floater. And so they finally decided to just take the third teacher out the classroom altogether, put him in another class. That's when it became really hard for me and the other teacher to balance out all them toddlers, especially during transition periods. It was just, everything was getting worse. And then at the same time, it was just personal things going on in my life, letting me know that, yeah, I think God is pulling me in another direction. So, child, and I just made the connection. I was like, ain't no way. None of this started to happen until I started to pray more. And that's when I knew it was God. Because I wasn't trying to leave this job. I started praying more. Then all of a sudden, the Lord just active and he just stirring up the pot at work. It was crazy. But that's the fourth sign. When you find yourself, when you pray and you pray more and you are serious with your prayers and about your prayers, and you start seeing things change in your life, whether for the worse or for the better, you better pay attention. That is likely the Lord responding to whatever it was you was praying about. So prayer is a huge sign on if God is pulling you out of your teaching job and pulling you in another direction, or maybe just pulling you out of that specific job and you're meant to go somewhere else. But so shout out to you. If you're trying to leave where you are for something better, shout out to those of us who just left the field altogether, whether temporarily or permanently. Sometimes you just need a break away, and then you'll go back into the field. Sometimes it becomes a permanent thing, whatever the Lord has for you. So I forgot to even mention how this started to impact my finances when it comes to the dread part. Because I didn't want to go to work. I would literally sit in the house to the last minute and then end up having to take the fastest way to work so I could still be early, which would happen to be the most expensive way. Like, it was a lot. If you related to any of this and made it to the end of the video and you felt what I was saying, comment the word felt. Comment the word felt, but also tell me like which specific sign you've been experiencing in this season. Let me know if this video was confirmation for you. Let me know if y'all been hearing other teachers and other like videos and stuff like that mention any of these things, because like I said at the beginning of the video, most teachers talk about just toxicity, admin, or just children's behavior. But let me know if you heard people saying it's because of the age group, or they just bored, or even with prayer. I appreciate you guys listening. I hope this helps. You know what? Let's end with a toast. I've been running my mouth. Shout out to those of us who are exiting a season and entering into a new one. The Lord has called me to do something else, which is personal right now. But for those of you who knows what you are called into, step into it full faith and trust in God, and it's going to be good, especially if the Lord is the one orchestrating you from, leaving teaching. So cheers up with some tea. See you in the next video.